Take up a trade. This will ensure that you never starve to death. Who among us has not heard a variant of such advice? There's nothing wrong with learning a skill. You can become a plumber and get quite rich doing so, but pay attention to the second part of that line. Did she say, so that you may become all that God wants you to be? Is it so that you can shine your light and become affluent so that you can accomplish your goals? No, it's so that you never starve to death. The reasoning originates from a position of despair, and this is the way of thinking that has been passed down from generation to generation. The strange thing is that it is absolutely invisible to us. Take a peek at the structure behind me. That is a factory from the Industrial Revolution. It was around 100 to 120 years ago. What other structures that exist today bear a striking resemblance to the faculty? Schools, correct? Schools, and here's one that's really intriguing, are all run in accordance with the Industrial Revolution's way of thinking. Consider, for a moment, that you're dropping your children off at school, or you were dropped off at school as a youngster and line up neatly behind the instructor, blows the whistle, rings the bell, and in distinct lines, you go to your workstation for settle down to do a little task. You labor for a number of hours, and then the foreman arrives. For example, when the instructor blows the whistle, the bell rings, and you take out a little lunchbox and eat some food. When the whistle sounds again, you return to your workstation and sit down. Why? Because we are still educating humans to be called into a system. Now, I'm not knocking on schools here. The point is not that they are poorly managed. The point is that we have unseen thinking, that we are educated to fold, and that we are culturally conditioned to behave in particular ways that no longer make economic sense in the current market. The old world mentality dictates that you become a caller, enter the system, and make no waves. If you're a flawless caller, you'll earn a little money at the end of the day and can go home believing will retain you. I like to refer this to the mode of thinking as the wheelbarrow approach. It's as if the parents seize the kid, the young son or daughter, and tell them, "My son or daughter, you are young and powerful. You must go out into the world and earn points. For each wheelbarrow brimming with bricks, and for each hour spent pushing your wheelbarrow, you will get 1 point. To get a second, you must push the wheelbarrow for a short period of time. No, we believe that the only way to earn points is to work a set number of hours, so let me go get a job and become dependent on a bus." Now you work a set number of hours every day pushing a wheelbarrow of fuel for a set number of hours, and a horrible thing begins to happen. You begin to realize that you're not quite breaking even with the kids and their education and the debit orders and the bombs and so on. This kind of thinking perpetuates generational cycles of poverty in families. If you take nothing else away from today, this is the most critical principle. Do not allow your earnings to be determined by the number of hours you work. As long as we believe that a number of hours equals a number of queens, we will be in financial trouble because a human being has a finite number of hours in a day. The affluent individual's technique of breaking free from this concept is to dump the bricks and never get rid of them. Lucia loaded a wheelbarrow with gold. In other words, for each hour spent pushing that wheelbarrow, you must increase the value of your job by earning more points per hour, rather than working longer hours to earn more coins if you are number one. Resentment against the rich reveals more about ourselves than about the wealthy. Has your family ever used the expression, "how the other halves lives," when referring to wealthy individuals? Yes, it's as if wealthy people are a separate species. The way I'd like you to view the difference between where you are and where you want to be is as a curve, because if it is a curve, you can move along with it to get from where you are now to your goals. But if you believe that rich people are different species, then instead of a curve, there is an absolute void between where you are and where you want to be. And if you don't believe that, then there is an absolute void between where you are and where you are. However, a wealthy person is not a different species. They simply have more education about how money is made and how to achieve goals than you are currently have. And that's fine, because it represents hope. It means you can learn these things and do them. Resenting the wealthy says more about us than it does about the wealthy people we frequently think of. They are definitely nasty and corrupt, and they have clearly trodden on people's toes to get where they are today. When they look at the world's highest earners and how much they give, Forbes magazine paints a different picture. The statistics confirm that wealthy people give more per capita than anyone else. We're not talking about more money because they have more. We're talking about me individually in percentage terms. The notion that affluent people are inherently stingy and wicked is not supported by evidence. Of course, there is the age-old joke that you will meet the most hideous wealthy person later, but by and large, it is not a solid rule. It is an excellent novel. It's Cold Outside by Malcolm Gladwell discusses the difference between people who fail and those who succeeded in anything. He discusses how wealthy families teach their children something very different than what the middle class and poor teach their children, and it's simply how to interact with authority. The middle classes and the poor are all trained to fear authority, and it's an industrial revolution to think that you're going to fear the person who controls the factory because he owns your life. Let's take a practical example. He says you bring your kid to the dentist. Middle-class families will instill their children the belief that the dentist is no longer available. He has studied for 8 years and understands all there is to know about you as a youngster. Sit down, be calm, and don't weep, even if it hurts. Simply wait for it to end and then do whatever he instructs you to do. 9 rich households address the same circumstance in very different ways. They inform the youngster on the way to the dentist office that the dentist is their buddy. He has studied for 8 years in order to provide you with the best service possible. Is it alright? The dentist is a resource that you may utilize if you have any questions about your mouth, your teeth, or anything else that you want to know. He is also the dentist, since it is his duty to assist you. Now consider that mode of thought as a basic example. Consider this. If that way of thinking is amplified over the next 20 years, which of those 2 children will succeed in life? If one is taught to fear authority, to keep their voice down, and to avoid making waves, and the other one is taught that the world is there for you to utilize all the resources available to you, imagine the difference that would make. Represent yourself, and we must educate our children to do the same. We have been lulled into the Industrial Revolution myth that says authority knows best and that you must shut up and do what is told. There must be a cold in the system. As long as you do your job perfectly and do not cause a stir, you will be fine. That way of thinking has been around for 100 years, and they say we can teach it any longer. A mental exercise. If I were robbed of everything I use on a daily basis, the suit, the equipment, the bits and pieces that make up the points, if I were stripped of everything and left with only my knowledge, my wits, and my education, and placed in this situation of extreme poverty, could I re-enter? Could I re-enter and return to my own life? What are your thoughts? Could you please sure the majority of people surrounding this statement are thinking, yes, that is an intriguing notion, but let's take it a step further. If I had to transplant a high net worth person into your life, it would be someone who drives a Ferrari, Lamborghini, someone who has a private aircraft, or someone who owns their own company, or whatever the case may be. Do you believe they would be able to escape? If we answer yes to that, what we are saying is that there's a chasm between where you all are and where that individual is. It's located here. He came up with an unsettling concept. At the same time, it conveys hope before it implies that it is possible, that the concept, the ideas, the information, and the education are all accessible, that it is possible. For years, we've been advised to play it safe, obtain a job, and avoid making waves. I agree that this is one of the most harmful things you can do with those calls. You are consolidating all of your eggs into one basket. You are consolidating your life, your future, your profession, your marriage, and your children, your medical assistants. Look, Why have you spent your life accumulating things and giving them over to someone whose primary priority is not your welfare? That seems extremely risky to me as well. 60 to 70 years ago, people went to work and worked for 40 to 50 years before retiring securely. Does that still happen? It is not true that most employers nowadays believe that if you have a job, you have 31 days of safety. That is 6. Now, consider this differently. While many people believe that becoming an entrepreneur is perilous, he is taking a calculated risk by being his own boss. According to Forbes magazine, the only individuals who are affluent are those who are their own employers. Now, suppose you, as an entrepreneur, attempt 10 large, wildly inspired ideas and 8 of them fail. You've gotten 2 of them to work, so you go out and attempt another 10 huge, wild, creative ideas, and once again, 8 of them fail. 2 of them work now, so you're up to 6 different sources of money. You go out there and do 10 major things, 8 of which fail, and you're up to 6 different sources of income. As a speaker, I now have many revenue sources. I talk on my train, I sell books and DVDs, and I do media appearances. This provides me with the numerous sources of revenue that are safer. Is the new site risky? Would you risk it? And the more we buy into the concept of popular throughout the Industrial Revolution, having a book look after us is secure. The bigger the danger, the more we risk our lives. Dangerous is the new site is risky. I feel that risk aversion is one factor that immobilizes the majority of middle-class individuals. The typical high-net-worth person had declared bankruptcy 3 times. How frightening is the prospect of declaring bankruptcy to us? Yeah, thus, it's natural that they've attempted large, insane things in an attempt to develop enterprises and have ultimately failed, but to them, failure is merely a part of the process. And they do something fascinating, which I'd like to ask you to do as well. They allow themselves to fail. Make a promise to yourself now, at this early point of your profession, and do yourself a favor. Allow yourself to fail. It's a new area of interest. It is up to you and your actions to reclaim the ball, reclaim control, and reclaim power. You are not separated from the objectives by a number of years. You are separated from your goals by a number of acts. As a man thinks, so does the wood. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, do not think about it.